You are listening to the new man, beyond the macho jerk and the new age wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Do we have to do something crazy in order to have more meaning and purpose in our lives? Do our impulses mean we're self-absorbed, or are they directed by forces beyond our understanding? And how would life be different if we were no longer trying to avoid discomfort or failure? My friend Teo Alfero has had a remarkable path in life that includes deep spiritual training and lots of wolves. He's got a new book called The Wolf Connection. And today, we talk about living a life grounded with responsibilities while also having a rich experience of what lies beyond our mental construct of reality. Oh, there he is.
Hey, brother.
Look at this guy.
Good to see you, man. It's been a while.
It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. How is life treating you?
Life is good. Life is good.
You know, the thing that comes up for me is the guys that I talk to, so many of them have done well for themselves, and they're like, okay, but I don't have that meaning. I don't have that sense of fulfillment. I don't have that depth in my life. And they're on this path, and you know, things outside of that path just seem crazy and insane. And then I know you, and you run a sanctuary with wolves. It's like, talk about the thing that seems kind of insane and crazy, but is full of richness and depth and meaning. I never really got a sense of like your path and how you arrived at this mission, because most of us will never see a wolf, much less go to a sanctuary where these wolves are, much less connect that to how you help people in their personal and spiritual transformation. So I want to know more about that. I want to hear more about your path in that regard. So walk me back before the Wolf Connection was created. Like, what was your life at that time before you got, like, what kind of path were you on at that time?
So my path started many, many years ago, brother. Since my teen years, I've always been very interested in esoteric traditions. So I read Hinduism and some Buddhism and Celtic traditions and alchemy and all those things. So I was in a search. Then my path took me into the army. So I was a military man for 3 years. And then when I got out of the army, I started picking it back up. And in my time in the mountains, after the army as a professional mountaineer in Patagonia, I came across the books of an author and teacher by the name of Carlos Castaneda. Mm-hmm. So what brought me to the States is to study with him.
Okay.
Right, so I came to the States after reading his 12 books. I remember closing the last one. I'm feeling it's time to stop reading and start doing.
What was it about his work that appealed to you? What you know, if you were to go that deep into one teacher and one author, what was it that drew you to him?
Every passage of the first book that I read was like an electric shock through my body. I remember the first book that I read by him, the name was The Fire from Within. And every paragraph would take me a week or two to digest. It was so rich and so impactful. It was the onslaughts of the spirit coming through that writing.
And was it that it was different between how you were living and this opportunity or this possibility? Like, I want to kind of understand that gap a little bit there. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a shock to my system because it was such a new way of seeing things. Is that what you're saying?
It was much more than a new way of seeing it. It was opening up a whole realm of being, right? I mean, his writings are straight up on some of the most impactful and far out shamanistic practices out there. And it spoke to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how to, I mean, it's not something I can explain intellectually. A lot of that, I mean, I was having an extraordinary life. I was, I'm not coming from a place of, I don't like my life, I wanted to change it. I never had that ever. And I was a mountaineer, professional skier, living in a ski resort, girls, partying, working out, climbing mountains. What is not to like?
Okay.
Right. That was my life. And then I come across this and I abandoned all that to go into a life of austere training. Came to the States. I left my business in South America. I came to the States. I was washing cars for $8 an hour just to make a living, and working, from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, getting at home, having a meal, and then practicing the principles laid out by this man from 5 in the afternoon or 6 until 3 or 4 in the morning, and sleeping a couple of hours to go back to work. And that was my life for many years.
What was and you say you were up all night practicing. What can you give us an idea of what that meant? If we saw you from the outside, you were practicing, what were you doing?
Well, he laid out a set of shamanic movements and practices that had to do with inner silence, and then moving energy and recycling energy in the body with these movements. So I would practice those movements for many, many hours every day.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And those movements could start building like a critical mass of energy in the body that eventually allow for new openings.
Okay. New openings meaning
the possibility to see beyond what the eyes can see. The possibility of receiving messages from other realities or from the veil beyond the dead, the possibilities of interacting with entities that are not commonly available for the regular human, the possibility of understanding the depth of our human condition.
How old were you during this time?
I moved to the States at the age of 27. That's 20 years ago this year.
Okay.
And that type of practice lasted the better part of 10 years.
Okay. So were you just in the States, or were you working with a teacher at that time, or you were all on your own? What was the sense of community that you had around the spiritual practice?
Well, I got, I guess my intention and intent was powerful enough. I came to the States looking for this man, Carlos Castaneda. I wanted to meet him. When I arrived, he had just died a few months prior. But I was lucky enough he was a very secluded, very private, very secretive man, not easy to find or get in contact with. But for some reason, among the first couple of people that I met in the States, 2 of them were his direct apprentices. So I began a journey of studying with them, and then became more involved. And eventually I met a woman named Caro Tix, which was a partner of Carlos Castaneda in his journey and apprenticeship. And I became a student of her. And with the years, I became a teacher of that work as well.
For someone on the outside, what does it mean to be a student of the work, to work under a teacher like that? Because some of us might think it's a cult, right? It's just like, oh, I give all my money to somebody. I can hear those types of thoughts coming. So what does it look like to be a student in a tradition like this, and to be practicing underneath, these apprentices and these teachers?
Well, I had no money to give away, so that was a good safeguard. I mean, that told me that it was legit. So all I had to give away was my arrogance, my pain in the assness, my feeling that I was the shit, my my hard-headedness, and she took all of that. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Well, like those places in us where we're hard-headed and we're a pain in the ass and we're a shit. Like, what does the process do? Can you walk us through, at least for a year, like what it did to awaken and have you grow?
Well, look, until that point, I mean, I grew up in an environment that told me that I was the shit. I mean, the firstborn male in a big Italian family. I went through school like a breeze. I was performing highly in the military. Then I became climbed some of the highest mountains in the world and skiing. And I got all the, women. And so
big dog.
Nothing, right? And then I something grabbed me from this spiritual tradition. Something grabbed me in a way that I could not, that didn't let me go. And so I came into my apprenticeship with all of that. I mean, thinking that I was going to go through this, like a breeze. That I got it. This is movement. Look, I'm a professional athlete. Let me show you the movement. I can kick and move my arms and legs and stretch. I mean, right. And the spiritual journey, at least in my opinion, spiritual journey of my experience, spiritual journey of the king is to give up the crown, become a peasant, to then come back up into a rebirth.
Okay.
Right. And that's a lot less romantic than it sounds.
It's grueling. Well, I was thinking about that. It's an ego death, right? It's a journey to kill that old identity, essentially. And a lot of us, our entire lives are designed to support that identity. See, look, I am enough. See, look, I am somebody. See, look, I am the best in my own little world. And you willingly walked into this process with that attachment, like, hey, look at how I am. But there was something that drew you. It was bigger than that, even though you knew it was ultimately going to destroy that. Does that make sense? Does that align with your experience that, okay, if I go down this road, it's not going to end well for this part of me that thinks I'm the shit?
Yes, I don't know if I ever formulated that thought. That's just the way you articulated it. I was hooked. I mean, Castaneda writes about this, and over the years, I read those books several times, and no amount of reading will get to the insights that experience will give you. Mm-hmm. And at one point, that his teacher tells him, the spirit has grabbed you, and he has grabbed you in his merciless clutches and will not let you go. And the amount of times that my head told me, just tell everybody to go fuck themselves. I mean, like, I'm done. I'm going to call them and I'm going to say this and that, and they don't see my worth and they don't see who, the ego goes crazy. I was suicidal at stages of the training. I mean, it's crazy.
But something kept you in.
Yeah. I mean, it was something bigger than what I was in control of.
Okay.
There was something else. And it was the same with the wolves. The wolves, I came in touch with the wolves completely through the back door. I had no clue what I was doing, and I could not say no. And I made every mistake in the book. I mean, every rookie, just looking back, it was defying almost common sense. Some of the things I did with the wolves, trying to experiment. It's almost like the psychological setup changes in a way that all this mental process, I mean, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Is this the right thing? It doesn't even occur. Right. You're just, jump into that water slide. And once you do the first step, you're committed all the way to the end. I mean, and it's been the same both with my spiritual training and journey in the lineage of the sorcerers of ancient Mexico through Carlos Castaneda, and with the wolves. Yeah.
I think the thing that makes sense to me sometimes is that, from our perspective here on the planet Earth, we can see the moon eclipse the sun, even though the moon is much, much smaller than the size of the sun. And it's like, we forget it's an illusion that is the same as the sun. And I think it just gets in the way of how enormous and how large this calling is, this connection that we have to this, that's much larger than that small self that's consumed with self-image and being comfortable and being liked and being accepted and all of those types of things. So at least that's how it makes sense to me. It's just like, yeah, it might look the same. It might blot out that part of the sky that is full of light, but it's not the same. It's much deeper. That light is much more profound and much more massive than that small self. If we're willing to see it from another perspective, that helps me when I get in touch with it that way.
Yeah, and the perspective is gigantic. It's almost you're stepping out of the earth.
You're stepping out of fear. You're stepping out of fear, and that's self, that identification of self.
But it's a lot more than that, Tripp. You're stepping out of fear. Castaneda speaks about this. Calls the fear the first enemy. But once you step out of fear, you gain clarity, so you can see, and that clarity becomes the second enemy because it makes you arrogant. And when you give up that sense that you think you know everything, and it's beyond from the ego. I mean, that scene that we're talking about is a scene beyond what the eyes can see, so it can easily make one very arrogant.
I've got it figured out.
Right. At an energetic level. Imagine that level of, So once someone gives up that kind of cockiness, then we gain power. And then power is the third enemy because it makes you a pain in the ass. I mean, you're the king, right? And this is way beyond ego. It's not even ego configurations. It's just energetic configurations. Wow. And then when you you're just able to give up power and reach the level of humility, and he says, the fourth enemy you can overcome, which is old age. In his opinion, for me, there is one more enemy, because when you give up power, in my experience, you reach a certain energetic freedom, and that freedom, you become attached to it. So in the name of freedom, we do a lot of stupid things as well.
Like what? Can you frame that?
Well, freedom can be an excuse to detach from concerns of this world. And as long as we're here, it's, at least as part of my tradition, I firmly believe we need to be peace, a part of this time and this world. So in the name of freedom, we give up possessions. I mean, the journey of the monk, give up possessions, we give up attachment, we give up relationship, we give up worldly concerns. And I don't believe that could have been the journey in the past for certain sages and so on. I don't believe is what wisdom and sagehood is called to be at this time.
Are you saying that it's more of a return? I'm like a bodhisattva. I'm going to come back into this realm, and I'm going to serve in this realm, and instead of I'm just going to extricate myself from it and go live in a cave up on the mountain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get too far away from the story that we were telling. So you're in your late 20s. You're going through these trainings, and that's the life, right? And so what starts to evolve from that place for you?
Well, I became a teacher. I traveled around the world teaching for years. As part of the work, I had to figure out business, and I mean, it's a very practical application of these shamanistic practices. So I launched some businesses, I crashed some, I succeeded in some. And one of the concepts of the lineage is finding the path with heart. So the principle behind that is every path leads nowhere. They're all the same. In the world of energy, there's no positive and negative. I mean, it's all about choice. And so you can choose any path, but if I find a path that has a heart, it makes it more enjoyable than others. And teaching has been that for me. And Wolf Connection has been the ultimate expression of that path with heart for me. It was a medium that allowed me to bring my love from animals, my love for humans, my knowledge in the outdoors and mountaineering, my love for nature, all in one place. So Wolf Connection became a hub for a destination for human enlightenment and growth and knowledge and realization in the company of these animals that have been, with us, accompanying us in our journey for millennia.
So let's go there, because you said you fell, in my own words, you kind of fell ass backwards into working with the wolves. And so it's not that most of us will go through our lives without ever seeing a wolf. So how did wolves become a part of your life? What was that? What happened there?
Well, again, something that, I have pledged my life to two things for a long time. One is I've pledged my life to increasing consciousness in this world. That's what my life is about. And two, I pledge my life to being of service to the next generation. So those things I knew about me, and I knew that that's what I'm here to do.
That's the path of heart.
Right. How that was going to manifest, I had no clue. In the midst of this, I am working as an interventionist for Hollywood families and their teenagers. I'm a mentor in foster care cases. I'm advising the judge in court cases for foster care, family court. So I come across a friend of mine calls me one day saying that he has some wolf puppies in his trunk. Do you want to see them? I'm sure. So it turns out he was dating a woman that he was breeding some wolf dog mixes in her backyard, and he was trying to help her sell them. So soon enough, I'm in my front yard playing with 3 little 4-week-old, wolf pups. So one of them, a little white and gray cotton ball, she had a pink collar named Tala. She was playing, jumping into a pond I had in my yard, getting me all wet. I mean, I loved her instantly. And I told my friend, I don't have time for a pet right now, but if I were to pick one, it would be this one. But no, thank you. So long story short, my friend ends up keeping her. He had other dogs that they were getting into fights. So Tala got hurt one day, and I told my friend to bring Tala to my house. I'll keep her for a couple of days until things calm down. Right? And that first night, this little thing about this big, it begins howling outside she was my kitchen. So it was howling, and I hear her from my bedroom, and that pierced through me, just similar to the effect that reading those Carlos Castaneda books in the early years had. Wow. It was, I experienced it as an opening, as an expansion of my body, as an opening of the heart, and like an electric current going from the back of my neck down my spine into my legs. Wow. That's how it comes through. And so I kept her. And I began looking for a playmate for her. And in that search, I find a pack of 16 wolves and wolf dogs coming from a hoarder situation. They were being held at a rescue center. And so I come to rescue one, and instead of rescuing, again, my heart opens up. I feel this pull, and I stayed and volunteered. And 3 months into my volunteering, I'm talking to the woman that's running the place, and we're talking about the weather. Just trivial conversation. And I open my mouth, and these words come out of my mouth. I say, all my life, I wanted to start a wolf sanctuary. Today, I still cannot tell you who spoke through me. Was it the wolves? Was it my own bullshitting? I have what I know is that those words were true at the moment I spoke them. Uh-huh. Of course, it wasn't. It's never been in my vision board. I never thought about starting a wolf center until that particular moment. Yeah. And but my words were true and sincere. And this woman heard that sincerity in my voice. She said, "I help you. I'll teach you what I know." And I never looked back. I began taking over this pack, and within a few months, I was able to find a piece of land that I could lease and build some small cages. And I was there founding a wolf sanctuary, flying off the seat of my pants. I had $20 and zero knowledge about wolves. And like I said before, making every mistake in the book.
Wow. I just find it so amazing because so many of us are like, I can't get started on this thing that I really believe in. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough energy. I don't know what to do. I don't have the experience. I'm not good enough. I'm not one of those guys. And I'm always amazed by these types of stories, like yours, where it's just like, if I want it, I'll figure it out. I'll be willing to be uncomfortable. I'll be willing to take some risks. I'll be willing to look like a moron. I'm going to figure this out.
Right. And it's beyond that even, Tripp, because I didn't know I wanted it. I can tell today that I did not want it. And if knew today the amount of sacrifice and work that was involved in it, I think probably a good idea that I didn't know what I wanted, because I would have not done it.
So what's your thing there? What came through you as that desire? I mean, how do you explain that to yourself today? If I didn't know I wanted it, I don't think I wanted it, but I wanted it and I did it. Like, how do you explain that to yourself?
Well, I talk about this a little bit in I think it's chapter 6 of the book. In my experience, that the way I believe it, the realm of human realization is beyond me, myself, and I. What I want, what's my passion, my purpose, my impact, the people I want to transform, my transformation, my life. All that can take people a long way, because most of humanity is stuck in the mud. So all that drive and direction can take us out of the mud into a good place. But you were talking about some people that that they have everything and they still unfulfilled.
Right.
It's because eventually that me, myself, and I, and what I want, and my journey and my success will start keeping you in a loop.
Mm-hmm.
It will not really take you to self-realization.
Mm.
There is a way of having our life directed by forces that are beyond us, that are much larger and much wiser and much more encompassing and inclusive than anything we can ever fathom by ourselves. I would love to say that I learned how to acquiesce to those forces. The couple of times in my life that those forces really directed my life, I had no clue. I was just taking some actions that could feel at the time impulsive, could feel at the time reckless, could feel at the time clueless. And yet I had no choice, and led to one of them was leaving my country of origin, taking a plane with $600 in my pocket, with a tourist visa to the States, to find this guy that no one knew where he was for decades. The next one was starting a wolf sanctuary, going to the desert to meet these wolves that I had no clue about, and then just being drawn to it. The third one was the way I married my wife. My wife was pointed out to me by the wolves.
How so? How did the wolves point out your wife?
Well, I mean, I'm a lot older than my wife, and I always had a very heavy opinions about mature men going after younger women.
You didn't like the idea
at all. I know I was very well. I mean, look, I for many years I've been working with teenagers and so on, and so when I saw men in their 30s and 40s. Poaching, that was my word, poaching on younger women. I didn't have any amount of respect. And here I was falling for someone that, 20 years younger, and the wolves were treating her in a way that she was constantly pointed out to me. Uh-huh. I mean, the way she still has this natural primal way to interacting with the animals that is mind blowing. And I was extremely conflicted with myself. And, for years, I took it to many months, took it to my men's group. We talked about it. My head could not fathom what my heart was feeling. And then the way I was directed, one of the best decisions of my life to marry her.
We get an identity, right? I'm the guy who doesn't go after young women, or I'm the guy who is successful at this, or we all have these stories we tell about ourselves. And then there's some truth that shows up and it conflicts. It's like, we can get into that bind. Wait a second. Should I start a wolf sanctuary? Or, these questions like, wait a second, is that really me? Is that who I am? And it seems like the real challenge is, can I get out of the way and honor that and honor what's coming through me and as me? And even though it feels so weird to this identity, this story that I tell about myself, I love that you mentioned your men's group there too. Is great way to have some checks and balances there, is we can bullshit ourselves either way, right? Oh, I'm scared to get into a relationship, so I'll come up with justifications, or if I want to justify going with a much younger woman, I can bullshit myself to go with that too. So I love that you brought it in and got some reflections from your men there.
When these forces that I was referring to really take a hold of you, this, should I do this? Should I not do this? I mean, is this me? It's not. I mean, all that gets like kicked to the curb. Yeah. And there's very powerful way of being.
It reminds me of when I met my wife, and I knew within a matter of really hours, I was like, holy cow. And I never thought I was going to get married. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I would head over heels. It wasn't that kind of puppy love thing. It was just, oh, here we go. Here she is again. Like I just had this sense like we'd already known, like there had been this past with us. And I just remember telling her after the last, we spent a couple of days together. I said, I don't know if this is going to last 5 months or 5 years or 5 lifetimes, but I'm fully committed to finding out. I'm not going to go back to my life and act like you don't exist. So I'm in, and I moved out.
That's it.
I moved out a month and a half later. I was living with her. So I moved out from Florida to Colorado. So I can appreciate those moments. Just like there's no doubt here. It seems crazy, but I'm doing this. This is what's happening now.
That's it.
So
that's it.
Okay, so you've got 16 wolves plus one, right? Your own, and you're starting up this crazy wolf sanctuary. But you're already on this path of helping young people and empowering young people in that way. So I'm curious, how does that work? In that process, was it obvious that bringing young people together with wolves was going to be a healing process for them? And what did you see possible there?
Initially, I thought I was helping young people on one hand and helping these wolves on the with the other.
Because the story is that the wolves have been abandoned, and a lot of these wolves were unwanted, or they were a pain in the ass, and they're not normal dogs. That's my understanding.
Right. Yeah. That's something that, I should clarify for your listeners is that, we are a wolf dog and wolf rescue organization. So all these wolves and wolf mixes have been bred in captivity, sold as pets, or exploited at fur farms or in roadside zoos as entertainment. So they don't come. It's not like we don't go into the wild with a cage, a trap, trying to trap, wild wolves and bring them into tame to become, ambassador for humans. So these animals are already in a pinch. They're usually mistreated, abandoned, confiscated by authorities that are illegal to own, or being abused. And like I said, fur farms, they're being raised and then, euthanized and pelted. So those are the animals that come to live with us. They're not eligible to being released back in the wild, because they're just too used to humans, and they would approach humans probably in the wild or go back into a cabin, begging for food, that kind of stuff, and they will get shot.
Right.
And they're not eligible for being adopted as pets anywhere because they're illegal. So most of the time, the animals that get confiscated by authorities get euthanized. So the best possible case scenario for them is to come and live the rest of their lives with us. Once they come to us, we rehabilitate them physically and emotionally, and we begin a certain, we can say, training process, but we're really getting accustomed to wearing a leash around their neck so we can go for hikes, to be accepting and welcoming of strangers, and to be checked for injuries and just with medical checks. That's the extent of the quote unquote training that we do. So back to when I was working with youth, and then I have these animals. So what I did is initially invited a couple of school classrooms that I was working with at the time that I just recently spoken at, to come and visit the wolves. And I didn't have a curriculum. I didn't have a plan. They came and they met the wolves. They interacted with the ones that were approachable. And I began noticing this opening. Some of the openings that I was experiencing myself, I began seeing in these young people. I began seeing kids that are constantly frowning, all of a sudden laughing, beginning to be playful, beginning to share stories, beginning to relate to the wolf, the history of abuse and neglect of the wolf. They would say, well, that's my story.
I'm not alone.
Right. And beyond not being alone, the fact that the wolf story would prompt them to share without any talk therapy, and sitting in a circle, now it's your turn, now tell me. None of that. They were just volunteering. The opening was happening. So I began realizing that maybe I had something in my hands that I could integrate. And that was a long journey. I mean, today the program meets, education standards, and it meets probation department requirements for community service and high school graduation essay requirement. I mean, this is a very comprehensive program that these kids get.
What do the wolves get out of it? Because, it's not like wolves necessarily, we don't necessarily, may not think of wolves as benefiting from being around people, especially if they've been hunted and pelted, as you said. So is there something that the wolves get from this process?
Yeah. One is the program is based on mutual healing. The kids that come help rehabilitate the wolves as much as the wolves help rehabilitate the kids. So in addition, so the kids don't come as the broken ones that need help, right? We are different from most youth programs out there in that sense. For us, they're whole, they're perfect as they are, and they come to help us walk and rehabilitate and feed these wolves, right? So that's one piece. Of course, the kids end up being from the pariahs of the school. They end up being the kids that run with wolves. So that's the other benefit. They're
that's
cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. The other piece is that I believe that the wolves, the individual wolves, not the wolves as a species, but the actual 33 wolves that I have in the ranch right now, that have in an energetic way chosen to come here as ambassadors. And there are other wolf sanctuaries in the country that are closed doors, or they do just education, biology education programs. And they don't have the kids every day at the ranch sleeping there and are like as involved as we are. So these particular wolves have their own mission to be of service to humanity. And if we're going to look into wolves as a species, science is now confirming what traditions, indigenous people have been talking about for millennia, which is the wolf is the first animal we ever associated with. We've been literally running with wolves for what seemed like probably hundreds of thousands of years. There are now just a couple of new archaeological discoveries, once in northern England, where they found in a cave some human remains and wolf remains buried next to each other 500,000 years ago.
Wow. Companions.
500,000 years ago. Wow. The last ice age started 110,000 years ago. So we're talking about primitive humans, before language, before cave paintings, before any social structure, before we were already, running alongside wolves. And so some biologists believe that or suggest that our connection with wolves, our memory of that connection is dormant in our DNA. We have a genetic memory of that connection.
Wow.
I venture to guess that wolves as a species are interested in our growth.
They're part of us. They're part of our development. We're part of theirs, is what you're saying. That we're intertwined in some way.
Yeah. And it's in states of shamanistic dreaming, the wolf had actually told me that they are the only species that cares what happens to humans.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm curious how there's this thread of following this hunch, following this, I don't know if it's a knowing, but just allowing yourself to go into these places instead of I need to protect, or I need to meet people's expectations, or I need to prove how great I am. But there's just this thread of I'm going to allow myself to follow these knowings or these hunches or these callings, and go into places where I don't know what I'm doing. And it might seem risky from the place of this small self, but you're called into it. And it seems like it just keeps happening over and over again in your development. Do you have a sense of what's next? Do you have it? Like, can you feel these emergences happening or coming? Like, okay, I'm going through a cycle. And there's another one coming up, because I feel one happening in my life right now. So I was curious if you ever get a sense that I think something's coming.
Tell me about it. What do you feel happening?
The thing that you talked about the knowing. There's been a flattening of my own spiritual development. I went through a big spiritual development years and years ago, and then for whatever process, I had to go through a death. There was a lot of things that had to go through a lot of dying, and I had to find my own 2 feet, so to speak. I was associating with my spirituality from a sense of the Spirit's going to save me and going to rescue me, and is going to rescue me from having to do the hard work and all the pain in the ass stuff. So I felt this sense of like being betrayed, or like, well, there's nobody there, and that definitely touches into my background with parents and that kind of stuff. So, but I really missed it, and I've had a hard time finding a reconnection with Spirit again on these terms from an integrated place without feeling like I have to give up some part of myself, like give up what I already know. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
It does.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is coming?
Well, as you and I talk, there's just a knowing. There's like a yes, of course. Like I've had several of these experiences that you talk about in the past, and it's more of just I'm open and available to them, and but I can't. It's not something I can put on my calendar and be like, great, I'm just gonna knock this out or anything like that. So it's more of just making myself available to it. So as I listen to your story and I'm coming back to my own and reflecting on my own experience, I notice it's just like, am I engaging, one, or am I hiding out, distracting myself? Am I open? Am I open to the message? Am I open to the calling? Am I open to the teaching? That's where things feel like I want to make sure that I stay open to those things. And then number 3, I can't force this stuff. I don't feel like that I can force those things to happen. So it's about staying in a place of receptivity instead of closing my fist and pushing things away. Does that make? I think that's what that feels right for me.
It does make sense, and that's all a mental concatenation, mental process.
And I would say that my relationship to it has been very mental. Like that's the phase of development that I feel like I'm in right now, is a very mental stage.
Right, because when you talk about should I close myself or open, the forces that are knocking at the door are the forces that are getting supernovas born and black holes engulfing galaxies. And I mean,
didn't really give a shit.
The thought that you can keep it at bay is idiocy at its best. So also the piece, is something to give up on myself. I mean, it's everything to be given up. And it's everything to be gained from that giving up. Mm. And these forces are not here to destroy your life. They're not here to destroy your marriage. They're not here to destroy your career or your ability to father your children. They're here to realize us. They're here to, and I'm going to say they're not benevolent forces. They're just evolving forces.
Yes.
Right. These forces are not, trying to help you, trying to bring you down. They're just, it's just an evolving, expanding life force. Right. So it feels like your heart is already in directing this evolution to an interesting, expansive, balanced, harmonious place.
I feel ripe because I've got I can sense that part of me. It's like, yeah, I've got a good handle on things. And that's always when the next phase shows up, like the next phase of confusion. And, oh, wait, I thought that I had a handle on how things operated. I've had a few of those. It's like, oh, I recognize this sense of solid ground, and now it's going to get shaken up again. Not necessarily, like you said, in a bad way, but there is a destructive and a creative cycle. And I can feel that ripeness for that next cycle.
And that confusion is only here.
Exactly.
Right. So there's nothing that you can do or figure out that will really make a difference. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from here, there is no confusion. Confusion is only, hard expansion, hard breaking, hard expansion, hard breaking, right? And continue moving forward that way. That's what I'm experiencing. It's just like, oh, wow, I'm feeling that expansion. Okay. Wow. How do I just allow it? Just allow it. Don't fight it. For us men, it's a journey of capacity. What do you mean? Your ability to hold energetically your world. Mm-hmm. Right. So, one of my main practices is anything that is thrown at me, I just open to it, and it feels it's going to crush you, and it's going to crush me opening. It's not going to crush me. If it crushes me, then it's not going to crush me while I'm constricting. And when you say that as men, we tend to, it's about capacity. What does it typically look like then if we're not opening? What does it mean? Yeah. What is that? What happens when we reach our capacity and we're not opening to it? Well, you get confused. You get confused. you get confused. You get, you start, most of us was going to go into angry reactions because men, we are very good at that. So we're going to go into angry or lashing, or imagine a water pipe, right? That is running at full capacity. And then you hose, or you squish it.
Yeah.
So now the water is pushing against the walls.
Painful.
Right. It's going to create, right.
Really painful.
So the more you can keep that water pipe open and let, and you're both, I mean, as men, we are really our energy is the water going through the pipe, right? It's the penetrating energy of force, constricting retrieves that penetration.
It's like an electrical circuit. I went through years where I was trying to fight back grief, and the thing that helped me make sense of it was that the harder that I fought that, it was like an electrical current that had too much resistance. It just blew. Like I just couldn't hold it anymore. There was too much heat, and there was too much. I was bound up. And then when I just allowed that emotional energy to flow through me and have those tears and have that wailing and have that pain, it moved through the circuit, and there was healing. I could feel that expansiveness in this, but we're not taught that in our culture. We're taught to resist and to posture and to hold it all together and be in control. But that, in my experience, when I do that, and I do that from time to time, it's like, oh my God, it's exhausting. It's so painful. And that's what brings up the toxicity and the resentment and this like pissiness that I have towards the world is, I'm resisting something. I'm resisting what just naturally wants to flow through me. Yeah.
We are this primal equipment that is designed to process and circulate. Right? Our bodies, our nervous system is designed to process and circulate. And then we have the body, the nervous system and electric currents, and then we have our energetic field.
Yeah.
That is even a much bigger processing and circulation apparatus. We constrict it, and then, it takes so much effort to just hold back the circulation opposed to just, but that's a mental confusion that we don't want to get hurt.
Right. It's a defense.
As if getting hurt would be such a big deal.
Well, that's easy to say, but okay. So tell me that from your perspective, why is getting hurt possibly not such a big deal?
I know for a fact it's not.
We take a punch, we get back up.
Well, look, I mean, you can equate getting hurt with being alive. If you wake up in the morning and walk out your door, I guarantee you're going to get hurt sooner or later. Someone is going to promise something. Someone's going to break a promise. Someone's going to tell you I love you, and then fuck your neighbor. I mean, that's the nature of expectations, and the nature of attachment, and the nature of bonding, the nature of, and it's so catastrophic to us because we make it such a big deal.
It's not supposed to happen when it's actually part of the program.
Right. And then we build up so much hurt on top of that, the resentment, all the anger, all the shutdown, all the, I'm never going to love again. I'm never going to be in a relationship. I mean, we make these overarching statements that I'm never going to do this again because this one time something happened.
I never want to feel that way again.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's existential insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity. I mean, this comes from a man. I didn't know what I was signing up for when I started the wolf sanctuary. We rescued now in the 10 years that we had 70 or 80 wolves total. I have 30, so 50 of them died in the same period. And these are our children. I mean, we keep them for their life. Some of them are with us 10 years, 8 years, 7 years. We have animals that we got as puppies 10 years ago, and they're still with us, right? And they died, and each one is a heartbreak that I cannot tell you. I mean, and now it's part of the culture of the organization is the culture of heart broken open, and then healing, and heart broken open and healing, and heart broken open and healing over and over and over and over.
Not resisting it, but allowing it. It's just part of the process instead of what do I have to do to protect myself from this? Because I think that what we're really saying here is when we block ourselves from that, we block ourselves from that heart path that you're talking about. We're that love that we can experience, or that sense of life that we're here to experience.
Yeah, and we block ourselves from experiencing an extraordinary life. An extraordinary life, and a life of risk, of abundance, of generosity, of inclusion, of expansion comes with hurt.
Yes. Yeah. I remember after my daughter was born, and I was just looking at her in the crib, and I had this huge The heart opening that happens, looking at my child, and I was just like, and the first thing I thought was, she's going to die one day. It's just like, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. And I just felt that contraction of like, I don't want that to ever happen. Right. But it was like, well, I can't stop loving her. I can't protect myself from that one inevitability. So I made an agreement with myself, just love fully, just go for it. And, no,
I love it. I can see it.
Yeah. I got the opportunity to go to Wolf Connection. It's an amazing facility. One, it's just a cool place to go to, and to be able to hike with the wolves, and to be able to see them. And it's hard to describe what it's like to be around them. You're not around dogs. There's not, even though there's a bit of dog in some of the breeds, but it's a different experience. It also doesn't feel like going to a zoo, where you're like feeling sorry for them. There's an element of thriving that they are leading in a lot of ways, that they are the ones that are bringing something forth in the experience. How do we contribute because there's the young people that are coming there benefiting so much, the wolves are benefiting so much. It's a great win-win. So how do we contribute if we want to help Wolf Connection move along?
Well, going to the website, wolfconnection.org, is a good place to start. Get more informed and get involved. Donations are always welcome. The place exists and thrives thanks to people that care. We are opening the doors now for some of the people you and I were talking about earlier. I mean, this year I'm doing the first Wolf Warrior training. So this is a training for men. It's a 3-day, 2 nights with the wolves at the ranch, completely immersive, and I'm going to be leading that. We've been doing a Women and Wolves training. So this is for more affluent, more adults that want to experience. I mean, Wolf Connection, we primarily help the next generation and youth in foster care and in prison and with drug addictions and in gang members. And the facility is really designed to serve and impact everybody. The wolves have a message for all of us, not just the ones with most need. I mean, people can sign up for our newsletter and stay tuned and see if they want to participate on some of the more community-oriented and leadership, corporate leadership training that we do.
Okay, great. And then the Wolf Connection, what wolves can teach us about being human, that's available everywhere. We can get that on Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Brother, thank you so much, man. It's been wonderful to hang with you. It's such an enriching experience. The last time we hung out, I think we were eating big steaks together. So
I still have the pictures.
Me too. Yes. Oh man, love to you, brother.
Brother, love you too.
If these interviews are helping you, then please visit The New Man on iTunes and leave us a positive review so others can discover the show more easily. Thanks for listening.